The role that makes a good team better. The fun support, also known as the flex support. You may be wondering what makes these players better than the rest, and it isn't just aim, so let's get right into it. Before we go too in depth with the explanation, I just want to thank all of you guys for 1,000 followers on Twitch. It felt awesome to make our goal for 2020, and I can't wait for everything in 2021. That being said, I do stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, and I urge you to join our Discord for announcements. Link below. Let's get right into it. So today, we are talking about flex support, and we don't have a guest. Well, that is because, well, I'm a flex support.
Very cool, pause swagger Overwatch.
All jokes aside, I am a flex support currently playing under attack mode. I specialize in Ana, but with my time at attack mode, I have received extensive training on all of the flex supports Overwatch currently has to offer. With that said, let's distinguish something that so many players still fail to understand. That is, what exactly is the distinguishing factor between a flex support and a main support? Flex support players generally play characters that are more mechanically demanding, like Ana and Zenyatta, while main supports play characters that are less mechanically demanding, like Mercy and Lucio, so they can focus on their communication role, which is usually ultimate tracking. Main support does not equal main healer. That is a common misconception. The meta at the time of play decides whether or not a role is focusing on healing or not, and you'll come to find that the higher your skill level, the more utility provides more value than just healing. So, with a focus on flex support, what really are the comms supposed to look like? While most teams tend to not focus on having a flex support comm much, I have grown to have a different opinion. Overwatch is all about knowledge, and if you play all the roles Overwatch has to offer at a high level, I'm sure you understand this. Supports can generally see the most as a fight is taking place, so letting your team know where crucial targets are is really important. For example, let's say you are playing Zenyatta. You are playing Ball Tracer into the enemy's Ana and Brigitte. You see that their Ana is isolated in the backline away from her Brig. With this knowledge, you should tell your team, hey, their Ana is alone, isolated, top left, discorded. This allows for your team to find easier value, which is what support is all about. The only other advice I have for communication is to make sure that you ask for help from your team. If a Tracer is harassing you in the backline, ask for your team to peel for you instead of trying to fight your way out of the situation alone. If you mess up a rotation, tell your team to wait and have your off-tank escort you. You'll come to find that many players aren't focusing on you, but understand that you, as the flex support, are very important for the team winning each and every fight. Now that communication is out of the way, what characters do flex supports have to play? A flex support's arsenal includes Ana, Zenyatta, Moira, Baptiste, and has recently expanded to Brigitte, Lucio, and Mercy. So let's get right into learning these supports. Starting off with Moira, there is actually a lot that goes into her kit. For starters, understand that your Fate is a really strong ability for keeping you alive. With this in mind, try to keep it up as long as possible and not waste it, unless you are finding a safer position using a Fade jump. To perform this tech, you want to jump as your momentum is going up on different objects. These offer clever little rollouts that will most definitely keep you alive in higher lobbies. Practice these jumps on different maps until you really get it down pat. Don't get too mad as I am still learning this mechanic myself, and there are some really difficult jumps out there. In terms of Moira's orb, it is very important that you use this ability effectively so that you don't run out of healing mid-fight. You generally want to throw more healing orbs than damage orbs, as they give you more ultimate charge overall and boost your overall uptime. Damage orbs only give 9% ult if it is fully utilized, while healing orbs give 13% ult charge. So when should you use different orbs? If you are playing a brawl comp, before most engagements, you should try to throw your healing orb in with your team so they get healed as they are taking damage on their engagement. Healing orbs are also better in Moira 1v1s you may face. Damage orbs can be utilized to finish off crucial targets. With this being said, if you throw a damage orb, make sure your team can focus the target and get them killed. Mindlessly throwing damage orbs without killing the enemy will give the enemy Moira more ultimate charge faster, which will punish your team with more fights lost due to a coalescence disadvantage. Before fights, you can throw damage orbs on different angles to look for ult charge and to scout where the enemy is going, but make sure that you have your healing orb ready for the main engagement. If you want to fight prior, you may not have your healing gauge full of resources. You can push into your enemy's spawn just close enough to deal damage to fill up the bar for the next fight. Just make sure you are within fade range of your team. Also remember that a quick tap of damage fills up the gauge a little bit quicker than a consistent beam. Moving on to Ana, there is a lot that can be said about her kit, but her use within team play is very few and far between. A great Ana player understands the fundamentals of her kit before delving into the advanced aspects of her arsenal. With this said, Ana has 2 abilities that can help her survive long enough for her team to help her. These include her Biotic Grenade and Sleep Dart. However, these abilities have very strong offensive capabilities, which we will delve into soon. While they can provide great offensive value, I do recommend to players that are learning Ana to try and keep one of the abilities online and not to throw it away too soon after the other. Since Ana relies heavily on these abilities to survive, if the enemy notices you have used up both of these resources, they will punish you instantly. The more you practice, the more you will understand when you can be aggressive with these 2 abilities in tandem without being punished, but that will come with some time. Since I do technically specialize in Ana, let me know if you would all be interested in a video or even a video series that goes into depth about Ana down in the comments below. Moving on to her Sleep Dart, however, I have a few tips to help you guys with understanding where to use this ability to get more value and hit high value sleeps easier. The Sleep Dart has the opportunity to take an enemy out of a huge portion of the fight, so it is really important that you try and find as much value with it as you can. With that being said, targeting solely a Hog, Ball, or other tanks will provide very consistent value to your team, as it will allow them to finish the fight without the threat of the slept tank. Note that tanks have larger hitboxes as well, so it's harder to miss. With that being said, that doesn't mean you should throw your sleep away either. There are definitely going to be times where you'll need to defend yourself, and sleeping a DPS character that is harassing you provides a great amount of value as well. These sleeps do take more practice, but will come more consistently over the course of time. Note that the pressure of Sleep Dart is enough to make the enemy play a little safer when engaging on you as well. So even if you don't feel super confident, you are still providing some passive value. One tip to close out the Sleep Dart portion of this explanation is against specifically a Genji Blade. When attempting to sleep a Genji Blade, if you are his dash target, which is highly likely, line up your crosshairs with his lower torso and sleep when you think he is going to dash. This will cause him to dash right into your sleep. Do keep in mind though that good Genji players will jump in the air before they dash at you, which will counteract this method of sleeping. My best advice to practice this is to get a friend to just consistently blade you with randomized jump and dash patterns. It'll help you in the long run. Our next ability to cover is Ana's Biotic Grenade. The uses of this grenade are quite simple at the start, but it is important to break bad habits early so that you can focus on the more difficult parts of her kit. The first tip I have for Ana includes where you want to place your grenades mid-fight. In a lot of VODs I review of lower level players, when both teams' main tanks are contesting space, they will throw the nade as quickly as possible at just their friendly main tank to boost healing, which is great. However, this is just the start of what is necessary. Taking the extra split second to line up the nade to hit both your tank and their tank creates even more value, forcing the enemy main tank to disengage and allowing for yours to be even more aggressive. My next tip for the grenade is that it is a very strong ability to keep yourself alive, and it should be used that way in various situations. But sometimes Ana players will use nade on themselves when they don't need to. While this will take some time, think about these core questions before you nade yourself. Are you in immediate danger? Assess the threat level, as in, will you die if you don't use it? And if I don't need to use it on myself, where can I find value in another area of the fight? Of course, you can't just ask these questions to yourself on the go, But when you do take time watching your gameplay, make it a point to ask yourself these questions. You may find that you have the power to sway fights when you use nade more effectively. One last thing with grenades. Set nades are small, but are just one of the few things that will help you just be a little bit better than the rest. CarQ has made some pretty decent tutorials on where to place nades, but some of them are a little impractical. If you guys are interested on a set nades video done by myself, I would be more than happy to do it. But let's move on to her ultimate, the Nano Boost. The best tip that I can give to Ana's Nano Boost is not as much of a micro mechanic tip, but more of a macro understanding tip. Before you go into a fight, make sure to understand what your team's planned / likely win condition is. In other words, how you are going to win the fight. If your Genji has Blade, try to set up a Nano Blade to win the fight with ease. With that said, however, what if your Genji goes down? Should you hold Nano? There isn't really a clear and defined answer. If you see the opportunity to win the fight by nanoing another member of your team, by all means, nano that target without hesitation. Nanoing your support duo is also a viable strategy if the enemy team plans to kill them before they get an ultimate like rally, trans, or beat up. Giving them the extra survivability can cause the enemy to overextend and be caught off guard. While I haven't explained my full knowledge of Ana's kit, like I said, I am more than willing to make more videos explaining how to understand Ana better. Just let me know if you guys are all interested. While I did have a lot of tips for Ana, Zenyatta is a character that revolves around instinctual habits, in my opinion, that correlate with Ana's kit. In terms of comms, calling for peel and identifying core targets are necessary components to your success on the character, but let's get right into the ability tips on this character. While the Orb of Harmony provides slight healing, it is still crucial to the survivability of your team. While placing an orb on a DPS like Tracer is efficient, sometimes it isn't the right call. For example, in the current meta, placing your orb on Ball at the start of the fight may provide more value since it is more likely the Ball will be taking the brunt of the damage while your Tracer is capitalizing off of the space he creates. In past metas like Zen Mercy, sometimes it is more beneficial to place your orbs on tanks since your Mercy is mainly prioritizing on damage boosting the Ashe or an Echo. With practice comes more understanding of this concept. As for Discord, I don't necessarily have too many tips for this ability. Try your best to Discord the target your target caller is communicating. If you do find an enemy that is out of position, you can call that target with priority to eliminate them quickly. Transcendence has a lot in common with Ana's Nano Boost. If you can get away with not transing a Grav or a Sigalt, go for it, but these opportunities are few and far between. As for a tech tip, Transcendence rollouts have been recently getting more attention off of Wrecking Ball's mines as seen in the clip here. I'm not sure how consistent this is, as it is relatively new, but something that you can definitely look at. Lastly, Baptiste is the support that is shared the most between the main support and flex support, so it is likely that we will have two people covering this subject over the course of the series, but let's get right into it. A lot of Baptiste's comms and kit revolve greatly around his immortality. It is really important that you do not waste this ability, as it is on a 25-second cooldown and it is extremely valuable. When placing immortality, ask yourself these questions. What is their threat level? Is the immo needed? Will this cause me to lose the fight? What ultimates do they have? Where can I place it so it is in natural cover? These concepts look pretty familiar, don't they? Well, it's because they are extremely important and necessary to maximize your value on all of these characters. But with those tips in mind, practice is what will solidify these important tendencies. Moving on to Regen Burst, there isn't really too much to say about this topic. However, I do see a lot of players, including myself, using it almost on cooldown once you take even a small fraction of damage. Much like Ana's Biotic Grenade, self-heal has its uses, but it isn't necessary all of the time. While reviewing your play, try to see situations where it is necessary and isn't. Some better uses for this ability includes when your team gets hit by a dynamite from Ashe mid-fight, or as you are engaging on a brawl composition. Since the recent changes turned Baptiste's ultimate from a window to a garage door, there are a lot less aspects that go into placing that perfect amp matrix. The main tip that I have is to try to place your ultimate on corners at a 45-degree angle so that your team can find more value from a much wider area. BAP also still gets his ultimate incredibly fast, so don't be afraid to use it aggressively. You'll never get better if you don't take risks. With all that said, thank you so much for watching this video. If you did like it, please do give it a like and consider subscribing and following my other socials down below. I stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern. If you guys do want to see an Ana video in the future, do let me know as I'd be happy to do so. But until next time guys, I've got to peace out and paz out. I'll see you in the next one.